Hi class, this is Mr. Amy, and today we're going over the Mid-Module 6 Study Guide. Number 1 says, write the fraction as an equivalent decimal. Then model the decimal with each given representation. So let's look at the first part. It says, write the fraction as an equivalent decimal. Well, here's my fraction. It's a mixed number, 1 and 54 hundredths. So step 1 is to write that as a decimal. Well, I know with decimals, the wholes are no different in a mixed number or decimal. The first new thing is I need to put my decimal point to separate my wholes from my fractional parts. The part I have is 54 hundredths, and the way we write that in decimals is just like that. Ones place, tenths place, hundredths place. 54 hundredths. Now the second part says model the decimal with each representation. So our first one is an area model. So I have one whole, so I'm going to shade in one whole square. And then I have 54 hundredths. Well, I know there's 100 squares in here, so each one is worth 1/100th. I know the columns are 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So each column is 10 hundredths. So 10 hundredths, 20 hundredths, 30 hundredths, 40 hundredths, 50 hundredths, and 51, 52, 53, 54. That's how we show 1 and 54 hundredths in the area model. Now I will show it with, well, we could either do discs or digits here. I'll do it with discs first. So I have 1, 1. And if I look at my number, I have 54 hundredths, which I know I could bundle 50 of those hundredths into 5 tenths. So 5 tenths and 4 hundredths, or 1 decimal point 5, 4. And then a number line, and I can see it's already been labeled with endpoints 1 and 5 tenths and 1 and 6 tenths, and I can see they put the tenths into 10 more pieces, which means these have to be hundredths in here. So this 1 and 5 tenths could be renamed as 1 and 50 hundredths. So then I'm just going to count 51, 52, 53, 54. Right there would be 1 and 54 hundredths. All right, number 2. Decompose tenths into hundredths using the area model. Express the equivalence of tenths and hundredths with fractions and with decimals. So I have 4 tenths here, and I want to decompose 4 tenths into hundredths. Well, first I'll go ahead and just label my 4 tenths. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So each column is a tenth, so I'll shade in 4 of them. And now I need to decompose this into hundredths. I've already got my 10 columns, so now I'll just add 10 rows, because I know 10 times 10 is 100. There we go. So now I have in hundredths, and I can already tell that this is going to be 10 hundredths, 20 hundredths, 30 hundredths, 40 hundredths. So this part says, express the equivalence of tenths and hundredths with fractions and with decimals. So I know that 4 tenths equals 40 hundredths. And the way I get there is by making each number 10 times bigger. Because I started with 4 shaded columns, now I have 40. That's 10 times as many. I started with 10 altogether, and now I've got 100. That's 10 times as many. So it also says with decimals, 4 tenths is equivalent to 40 hundredths. All right, let's keep moving here. Part 3 says use number bonds to decompose 2 and 36 hundredths by units. All right, so I'll make a number bond, and I'm decomposing 2 and 36 hundredths, so I'll put that in the top of my number bond. And I've got 2 digits, so I know there's going to be 3 digits, so there's going to be 3 parts to decompose. This 2 is 2 ones, so it's worth 2. This 3 is 3 tenths, or 0.3, and the 6 is 6 hundredths, so 0.06. Excuse me. Alternatively, we could have done this with fractions, just to be thorough here. This would also be acceptable. 2, 3 tenths, and 6 hundredths. That's another way to say that. Okay, part B says compose 7 hundredths, 2 tenths, and 4 as one decimal number. So I'm going to put all these together. 4, and I'm just switching the order because I think the order was trying to throw you off a little bit. Plus 2 tenths plus 7 hundredths. If I put these together, 4 ones, 2 tenths, 7 hundredths. Just like that. All right. Making good time today, making up for the last couple of study guides. Number 4 says model the following equivalents on the place value chart using number disks. 30 hundredths equals 3 tenths. So when it says model, that means they want me to draw out the equivalents on the place value chart. So I want to show using disks that 30 hundredths is the same as 3 tenths. And I'll start by drawing my 30 hundredths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Not too bad. We don't really want to have to do more than that, but 30 is not too bad. And what I've learned in 4th grade about place value is that when you have 10 of something, you can bundle it to make something bigger. So if I have 10 hundredths, I can bundle those together to make 1 tenth. And then I've got another 10 hundredths, so I'll make 1 tenth, and another 10 hundredths to make 1 tenth. So in all I've got 1, 2, 3 tenths. So that models the equivalence. 30 hundredths equals 3 tenths. All right, let's flip to the back side. And take a look at number 5. Complete the following chart. So in our chart we have unit form, fraction, fraction expanded form, decimal expanded form, and decimal. So our first number is 2 tenths, 7 hundredths. Well, I don't have any ones in here, so I know it's going to be all fraction. 2 tenths, 7 hundredths would be 27 hundredths. The fraction expanded form would be 2 times 1 tenth, because I have 2 tenths, plus 7 times 1 hundredth, because I have 7 hundredths. And that's it. The decimal form would be the same, except we're replacing the fractions with the decimals. So 2 times 1 tenth plus 7 times 1 hundredth, because I have 7 hundredths and 2 tenths. And the decimal would be 0 ones, decimal point, 2 tenths, 7 hundredths, or 27 hundredths. All right, now we're working backwards on this one. We have our decimal 8 and 24 hundredths. Well, unit form would be, if I wanted to start over here, 8 ones, 2 in the tenths place, 2 tenths, and 4 in the hundredths, so 4 hundredths. And you can do these in any order you want. This will be a mixed number since we have ones and fractional parts here, so 8 24 hundredths. And then the expanded form, that's where we take each digit and express its value. So 8 ones is 8 groups of 1, plus 2 tenths is 2 groups of 1/10, plus 4 hundredths is 4 groups of 100. And then decimal, just like before, the exact same, just with decimals instead of fractions. So we have 8 copies of 1, 2 copies of 1/10, and 4 copies of 100. There we go. Those of you that made it this far looking for that secret word, it is happy. Turn that in, tell me secretly, and you'll get a treat when you turn it in. Okay, next one. I just noticed this might be a little dark. That looks a little better. Sorry I didn't do that sooner. Hopefully it's not too dark. Kara placed veggies in a salad bowl. The items and their weights in kilograms are given in the table to the right. Plot the weight of each item on the number line below. Alright, so we have a number line between 0 and 1, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parts. And so we'll just go down the list and make our line plot. So our first one is lettuce, 5 tenths. So 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10. So here's our lettuce. Tomatoes, 3/10. And I'll just put a little L here so I remember that's lettuce there. Tomato, that might come in handy later. Tomatoes, 1/10, 2/10, 3/10. These are tomatoes. Carrots, 25 hundredths. Ooh, okay. So 25 hundredths is going to be, it's greater than 2/10, and it's less than 3/10. I know 2/10 would be 20 hundredths, 3/10 would be 30 hundredths, so 25 is right in the middle between 25 and 30, so I think it would be right, whoops, excuse me, right here. 1/10, 2/10, 5 hundredths more. All right. And then our last one is, oh, look at that, 25 hundredths again. So we'll just put another one there. So that was the carrots and the cucumbers. All right, part B says, write a number sentence using decimals to record the weight of the carrots in expanded form. Okay, so the carrots are 25 hundredths, so I want to write a sentence using decimals to put it in expanded form. Well, it doesn't say it needs to be fraction expanded form or decimal expanded form, so that means we could just go with the basic expanded form we learned early in the year, where we just say we've got 2 in the tenths place, so that would be 2/10 plus 5 in the hundredths place. So it can be as simple as that. Now, you could also, if you wanted to, do the decimal expanded form or the fraction expanded form, which would be, just to do a quick review, 2 copies of 1/10 plus 5 copies of 100th. But that's not necessary, but that would be a fine answer too. All right, last problem. Write a number sentence using fractions to record the weight of the cucumbers in expanded form. All right, the cucumbers, 25 hundredths. So expanded form, so that means we take each digit and represent its value. So that 2 is 20 hundredths or 2/10, plus the 5 is just 5/100ths. Or we could say 25/100ths equals 2 copies of 1/10 plus 5 copies of 1/100th. Either one's fine. All right, we did it. Not too bad. Good luck on your test.